Good afternoon. Welcome to the Small Business Support Group. I have a very blocked nose from hay fever. It's nothing serious. Don't panic, anybody. It's, excuse me, 3rd of June. It's a Wednesday. And who do we have in? Well, as ever, we have Maz in. There she is. And Grant, who he thinks is in a radio studio today. His mic's coming down.
Look at this. Yeah, looks good, doesn't it? Does it work? I don't know.
I think you need to turn it like it's that way, something like that.
Like that?
Yeah,
just a bit hard, doesn't it?
Do it to the side. Just do it to the side. No, you're pointing it away from your mouth. That's the problem.
Is that it there?
Yeah, that was it. Hello. We're just waiting for. We got some comments in already. Hi to all.
Hi.
Morning. So we're just waiting for Mark to come in because he was in and his video is not working and he's out again. But Maz, what are you talking about today?
So I'm going to be talking about journaling today. How to journal for self-improvement.
Excellent. Journalism. And Grant, you are...
Yeah, I'd like to follow on with that because journaling is part of a morning routine. And so I'd like to talk about morning routines.
Excellent. Okay, superb. Well, while we wait for Mark to come in, we'll start things off with Maz because we've got at least 10 minutes to get him sorted out. Maz, it's all over to you.
Honestly. Okay, so good morning to, good afternoon. It's 12:01, so yeah, good afternoon. So this week, we've touched on some very interesting subjects, and whatever happens from this moment on, or actually since the pandemic began, a new and defining chapter in the history of the world is being written right now. And you know what? We are that history. Yesterday, we touched on the positives of the pandemic. So today I thought, what can I bring to the table? And as you guys know, I go for my run in the morning. And while I was on the run, a very close friend of mine shared their journal entry with me. And by the way, this is something I do too, because I love to write. And it made me think about what they shared and how this friend of mine was on a journey of discovering themselves, a journey that I'd like to call self-improvement. Journal writing gives us insights into who we are, who we were, and I suppose who we can become. And the word self-improvement stood out for me this morning. And when you open any given site that publishes articles on self-improvement or personal growth, you will find at least one article that says why keeping a journal will change your life. And a journal, I think, is truly one of the best self-improvement tools there is. And there's this quote by William Wordsworth, which I love. And he says, "Fill your paper with the breathing of your heart." From writers and thinkers to artists and world leaders, many influential personalities throughout history have actually kept journals meticulously, maintaining, a detailed account of their day-to-day lives, their thoughts and feelings. And while you might think that your life isn't as eventful as, I don't know, Leonardo da Vinci or Lady Gaga, you might still want to keep a journal simply because of the slew of benefits this keystone habit offers. Don't forget that our lives are full of hidden gems of knowledge and insights. I mean, the most recent events in our lives contains the most useful gems of all. And also, I think that you must remember that your story matters. What you write has a power to save a life. Sometimes that life is actually your own. Most people overcomplicate the act of journaling or putting your thoughts on paper. I mean, your aim should be to put down on paper what you see and what you feel in the best and simplest way. I mean, how can I describe this? For me, journaling is about managing myself and my thoughts. I don't just express myself more openly than I could to any person. I actually create myself, It's not that my life is interesting or wow, that, I can never sell it as a memoir. No, I see journaling as a self-improvement tool. Most people see journaling as a hobby or something that we do for fun or to relax. Sure, those reasons might be true for some, but for most, there's only one why. And what is that? Self-improvement. How do you expect to improve yourself if you don't know yourself? You truly get to know the quality of your thoughts when you write them down. Let me give you an example. Like, do you know how good of a thinker you are? Do your decisions make sense? How do you even make decisions? Why do you do what you do? When are you productive? When are you not productive? You can answer all these questions by reading your entry that you wrote down. Now, some people must be thinking, but I don't even know what to write. Well, I'm going to share with you 3 ideas today. 1, journal about your activities. Just write what you've been doing. You can either do it in the morning. As Grant said, it's something that he does in the morning. I do it first thing in the morning, or you could do it in the evening. Just write what you've been doing. When I lack inspiration or motivation, I just go through my journal and see when I was inspired, when I felt energized or motivated. Then I actually recreate those events. Number 2 is journal about what scares you. There's no better way to address your worries than writing about them. If you worry about something, it seems way worse in your head. When you start writing down what you're stressed about, you can actually start thinking about how you're going to solve the problem that's causing you stress in the first place. I've been journaling about my fears for a very long time. And actually, it helps. Ultimately, you want to create a plan to address your worries. I don't know. Let's say you're worried about the financial situation. Think about all the ways that you can generate an extra income. Put all your ideas on paper and then start working on them. Remember, the act of writing is the act of discovering what you believe. And lastly, my final tip would be journal about your decisions. Use your journal as a feedback mechanism by second guessing your own decisions. Deep down, we kind of know the answer. We just don't look deep enough. Ask yourself a question and try to answer it by reasoning from multiple sides. What are the pros? What are the cons? What are the outcomes? Journaling is a very, very, I would say, versatile tool. It helps you with self-awareness, and it also helps you to improve yourself. And if you're really serious about those things, I would say a journal is a must. Now, all you have to do is open a new page in your physical journal or a document in your digital journal and start writing. And I want to leave our listeners with a thought. Keeping a journal, the short entries are often as dry as, I would say, instant tea. But writing them down is like pouring hot water over them to release the aroma. So, on that note, over to you, boys.
Literally, I had to work out what you meant by journal because it's not a word that is stuck in my head. Oh, someone's got a buzz.
Oh, what's that? What's that mean?
That's Grant's.
It's
Grant's
not
got
me.
a buzz. Grant's got a buzz. I'll mute you for a second, Grant. Are we
All right,
okay?
mate.
Okay,
All
brilliant. Yeah, because I didn't comprehend what journal to a diary or that time. I just didn't get that word. It was weird at the start of that conversation. I was trying to figure out what you meant, and then obviously for the conversation you did. I have actually been downstairs and tried to unblock my nose, but I'm still blocked up. Do apologise, Grant. I know you've got you have journals, don't you, or diaries as well. Which you fill out with there is one. I've got an A4 pad which I keep multiples of, which I keep for reference in the future. So I think it is important to write it down. I think with what's going on at the moment, Tina, my wife, she's actually done a diary in a separate book just specifically for COVID. She's written every single day since we locked down, and it's really interesting, mainly just so we can remember what we had to eat, because everything just blurs into one. But she's written down how her experiences and how she felt every day, and I think it's really important. So I know Grant has got a ton of stuff on this. What do you want to say, Grant?
So yes, fascinating subject, and very articulately put there by Maz. Journaling and writing, or scribing, as it's known in the method that I use, is one of the key points of the Miracle Morning, which is a morning routine that is suggested is the sort of key to success for successful people. So from a business perspective, having a morning routine and using writing as one of those things is really key. So it's really good that Maz kind of went into a bit of detail on that, because I think a lot of people do think, well, what can I write? And I definitely put myself in that category. So there's two main points about the journaling that I'd just like to add. First and foremost, there's quite a lot of science out there that suggests that physically handwriting something rather than typing on a keyboard is more effective. And we are trying to get results from this in helping you remember what you've written. And also there's a sort of physical element to it. Actually writing stuff with a pen or a pencil or whatever. So I would suggest looking into that, because although some of us, these days we're always very tempted to just type stuff into the computer, which does seem a more efficient way of doing things, there is a bit of science behind, for whatever reason, it's more effective to actually write it down. And so I always try to use a bit of a combination of things. The actual journaling process, there's a couple of different ways of actually doing this that I've found. Now, over the years, I've done all sorts of different ways of doing this, and bringing this up today has reminded me that I've fallen out of the habit of this. And I need to get this sorted, because last year I ordered this, which is called a passion planner, which you can order online. And I filled this out, loads last year. Every day it's broken down. It's a bit like a diary, but it gives you prompts. So at the end of each month, you've got to fill in loads of stuff, and it asks you questions, and it basically gives you a formula to do it. So you don't have to sort of sit and think, what am I going to write? And that way we can really automate the process. And so for me, the passion plan is full of positivity. Every double page spread is a week, and it starts on a Sunday. It's got a focus for the week, good things that happen that you have to write down in the week. There's always a motivational quote. Space for infinite possibility, where you have to write things down. So, I've got all sorts of stuff in here to do with, my business and personal and all that kind of stuff. You have a personal to-do list, a work to-do list, and it's all handwritten. Now, I did that religiously last year. This year, I started, and at some point I stopped. And yeah, from sort of February. I haven't done this since February. So something happened. Not sure quite what. May have been the lockdown. But I got out of the habit. And this has just reminded me. I hadn't even noticed that I'd gotten out of the habit. Now, it's interesting, isn't it, that we can form a habit that went on for well over a year. And then all of a sudden, I've fallen out of the habit, and this is something that's really easy to do. So, but journaling, it's reminding me. Thank you, Maz. I'm going to get back on this. So, just to sort of add to that list, the morning routine, which is a book called The Miracle Morning. The one that I read is called The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. It talks about the lifesavers, and every morning, what they're saying is that every successful person does at least 3 of these things every morning. So I'm just going to run through them quickly. It's a much bigger subject than the 5 minutes I've got here, but it actually spells out the acronym SAVERS. So it starts with S, silence. So this is supposed to be: you wake up in the morning, you get up, you wash your face, you brush your teeth, and then you go into these routines. That's the system. So silence is meditation, prayer, focused breathings, whatever it might be that sorts you out, just to give you that grounding. Then your affirmations. So you do affirmations about define your goals, repeat them out loud. I do this every time I have a shower. Actually, I play my affirmation through an app called Think Up. And Think Up, I really highly recommend. It was recommended by Dan Pena, who's the famous sort of the $1 trillion man entrepreneur. Really good app. Visualization. Imagine yourself already having achieved the goals. So basically a vision board. So I'm very pro on vision boards. I think they're really, really cool. Exercise. So then you get your exercise, get the blood flowing, get your heart rate up. Obviously, Maz, you do this every day with your run. Mark does it with his run. Matt has a walk. Reading. So finding inspiration through reading. Entrepreneurial learning. I actually listen to, instead of actually reading, I listen to a book whilst I'm training. And then the final one, coming to what we're talking about, they say scribing, because otherwise it wouldn't spell out savers. But really it should be writing.
That's cheating.
I know, yeah. And that's write in your journal, your notepad, your goals, and your to-dos, and then obviously, diarize. And for that, I use the Passion Planner, because for me, that's a bit of it's a structured way of doing it. Although I've fallen out of the habit. I still use a book, by the way. I've got absolutely tons of books everywhere. I always write stuff down. So I've got one here. I'm just grabbing it off my shelf, and I do quite a lot of drawing. So within my book, there's always sort of like, things written out, that are all. I do loads of sort of scribbles and drawing, and I just think that is, I find it a lot more powerful than just typing stuff on a laptop. Maybe it's because I'm old school.
I think we touched on it when we did one of the early shows where me and you both shared, not obviously up close to the screen, but our personal mind maps. And I mentioned Tony Buzan, and we said how amazing mind mapping was.
Brilliant. Yeah, really cool.
That's quite impressive, Grant. Thank you for sharing that.
There's some software actually called Ayoya, I think it's called. Ayoya, something like that. There's a guy who's who owns a building down in Penarth, where we used to have an office, and he's got mind map software, and he uses it, really, really well. And Ayoya is like a CRM that's built around the same kind of principle. Mind mapping, I do it all the time. If I've showed you that book inside, it's full of mind maps. I'm always doing mind maps. I find them really, really useful. I'm in the middle of one at the moment, actually. I started it yesterday. I love a mind map.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm really interested in that passion. Excuse my nose, I'm blocked. The Passion Planner. I'm really interested in that, because I do like a good bound book, and that looks really good. And they are
lovely. Yeah, they're lovely, mate. They're really, really nice.
I'm gonna get one of those, because that's I like that.
The thing that's cool at the beginning of the Passion Planner is it gives you full instructions on how to do it all, and then it starts off with like a sort of a vision sort of thing. So you map it all out in a mind map right at the beginning. And yeah, I'm disappointed with myself that I've fallen out the habit with that. But
that's all right. We'll let you off. Don't worry. We won't recommend you. So Mark's in the house now. He's sorted out. Did you have to reset the Mac?
I mean, I did a Zoom call with it, not a problem. Then it said I just couldn't get in with video. But I did do the due diligence and log on Facebook and watch Maz's opening speech. So I kind of have an idea what we're talking about. So this is my journal. As you can see, I write.
There's nothing in it. Oh, okay.
And maybe, and I listened obviously to what you were saying there, Maz, and obviously, Grant, you're a great inspiration for all this. I should write stuff down more, because if anyone is like me, you think it's all there and no one can tell what you're thinking because you haven't written it down. And you then get overcrowding in your brain, and it can cause issues. It can really cause lots of undue stress, because really what you should be doing is write it down and then focusing on what your plan is. So yeah, I'm taking a lot from this. Thanks.
That's good. No, that's good.
I'll tell you what, we're going to be so grateful when those hairdressers open, aren't we, Mark?
I didn't put anything in it this morning. I think.
But you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, Grant, because there's a picture floating around on Facebook of Mark in his younger years, and you know what? He's always had a good set of hair. Look at this. Look at that.
Look at that.
That's really floppy. How old were you there, Mark?
Floppy.
I was 18 in the squadron bar with Sean there. Sean is now, we both joined as troopers. He's now a major in the British Army. But as you can see, I think we're having a serious conversation about girls.
Nope. Definitely. So that started me off then. So I thought, well, I'll get one from Maz. She's literally going for her phone before we went on air. She's like, I said, I need a young photograph of her. The only one she had was that. I think it's a little bit too young, I think. which is not good. Then I went for Grant's, had a search around for Grant. There's nothing of you in your younger years, is there, Grant? No, the youngest I could find was that one. Which
that was me, my Movember.
Oh,
I know everybody had a moustache there, didn't they? In that photograph, which I cropped everybody else out of just in case. And then Maz said, "Well, you better." Hang on, yeah. And then she said, "You better get one for yourself." So I went, "Okay, right." So this was actually floating around on Facebook a couple of months back, and this is when I was DJing in Rhodes, and it was It was in the daytime, and it's the campest picture. I'm trying to explain it before it comes up on the screen. It's the campest picture. I don't know what I was doing. It was obviously a very late night the night before. I'm about 18, 19 here, but I'm not sure about it at all. Sleeves are cut off, everything going on there, and I think I've got two hats on. I'm not sure.
You look like Ollie, your son.
Yeah, I do look like my son, which is probably a good idea, but it's just weird. I don't know. But yeah, it's weird that my earlier day, because I was obviously DJing a lot, I did have some strange outfits on, which is here's one. Oh, hang on a minute. How old were you there? Hold that up again. Let's have a look. How old were you there?
70s.
Don't know, mate. About 4, 3, something like that.
You see, I'll have to go back and grab that one later now. That's fair enough. So, okay, that's good. That's good little talk and leading on to the nice pictures. Maz found one of us, me and Maz as well, looking happy when we could get close together because it's not a COVID, And she's drinking Coke there, I've been told. But there we go. Mark, what did you want to talk about today then, mate?
Sir Keir Starmer. It's great to see that we have finally got an opposition to the current government and obviously to the Conservatives. But nitpicking, criticising, and going out and adding to the fear that is currently going through everyone's mind about a second peak, about the whole coronavirus. How are we tackling it correctly? Should they have done the unlock so early? All of this, in my view, is tantamount to recklessness instead of tackling the government where it should be, with sitting down, having correct, having meetings and working a plan out of what is right for the country. Instead, he gets an interview with The Guardian, I believe, and just slates Boris and the whole decision what the government's got, saying they have no understanding how coronavirus is, and they're creating more and more fear than answers. Well, I've got news to the leader of the Labour Party. No one in the world really understands what coronavirus is all about. No one has the right answers. We're all second guessing, and we're all trying to do our damn best to put the country back on the right track. Now, we need to, as businesses, as politicians, lead from the front. Get rid of the uncertainty, the nitpicking, and really back what is being done here. Scientists have got different views. They came out last week and they said, like, they didn't agree with the unlock being so early. Then scientists were saying, actually, I do think it's the right decision. But one I was listening to, and I can't remember, the one scientist that was, he simply said this: we all have different ideas of what we should be doing right now. The fact is that we're doing something. Now, for the lowest infection rates and deaths since March, we don't know if that is the case. But what we do know is schools need to get back to normal. I know that my own primary school made a decision that they're not going to open after telling all parents that they were going to open. That has caused more confusion, over the weekend. Decisions made by the head across there. But what this means is people are feeling this whole uncertainty, worrying, and becoming more and more invested in what could be rather than what is. Now, we don't know the answers to any of this, but what we do know is we cannot continue being doom and gloom about things and raking up things to make it look good for politicians. This is not the time for bickering. This is the time for us to move forward.
The problem you've got there is that they've had no political point scoring for 2 or 3 months now, have they? Because everybody's stay quiet. Well, that's the way it is, isn't it? That's how it works. And Starmer's obviously PMQs are happening at the moment as we're on air. And Starmer's going right at Boris. I mean, just looking at some of the reports that are just coming through. And it's going to be interesting to rewatch that later, actually. He is just hitting him with everything about the trace and test system. What is the actual alert level? Asking questions which we really need to know. And it's hard, but politics has got to get a move on now. We've got to get back to how politics ran, which was scoring points for each other and not slagging each other off. But it's questioning everything, which Mark, you always say question everything. So that's him. But yes, it is all a bit weird at the moment. I mean, I was looking at the data yesterday for Solihull, just specifically how Solihull. We've only had 965 cases of COVID now reported out of 100,000, which are actually in the centre of Solihull and the outskirts. Couldn't find any deaths, which is weird. I've looked everywhere. I can't see any report of any death in Solihull with COVID, which is peculiar. And I think everybody should really research this and have a look at their own area and see what deaths you've actually had and how many COVIDs you've had, because I really think we're not as bad as it was. I know Grant's been saying it for weeks, but I don't think it's not as bad as we expected it was. So I think everybody needs to do a little bit of research. I think everybody needs to ask some questions about these different things. So we've got a couple of. Here we go. Let's have a look. That's a very big text. Sorry, it's blocked everybody out. Uncertainty is all around us, never more so than today. The current COVID-19 pandemic has heightened uncertainty over the economy, employment, finances, relationships, and of course physical and mental health. Yet as human beings, we crave security. We want to feel safe and have a sense of control over our lives and well-being. Fear and uncertainty can leave you feeling stressed, anxious, powerless, and in the direction of your life, it can drain you emotionally and trap you in a downward spiral. That is Carly, who's it goes on, but I won't read all of it because there's quite a lot there. Ramsey's asking, Darren is saying, what is difference now to early March? For Solihull, that's 693 COVID disease registered since the start. This is not just this month or the past week. That's since the start. So I think that the data's all skewed. I don't know. What do you think, Grant? I mean, I know you've got.
I've said this from the start. That when you actually dig down and look at the statistics and really start paying attention to them, the whole thing seems to be, how can I put it without being insensitive? That there are lots of the vast majority of the people that are affected are the elderly. There's clearly now starting to be loads of people that had an infection that never even had symptoms. There's just, I think it's twofold, isn't it? we didn't have a choice but to have a lockdown, but because we didn't know how severe the disease was at the time. But in hindsight, it seems like the extent to the lockdown has been undertaken is probably in the long run, when it's analysed futuristically, has caused more problems than it actually cured. You know, the fact was that we had a disease that we didn't have a cure for, that did cause deaths in certain areas of the community and in certain age groups and people that were, that had underlying problems. You know, occasionally it was people that didn't, and we were stuck with that. And because of all the unknown, the choice for the entire globe was to go into lockdown. But interestingly, and Matt, I'm sure you'll like this one, I watched the interview with Joe Rogan and Elon Musk that was probably about 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
Now there's a guy with a massive brain. This was about 3 weeks ago that they interviewed him. And so I've got a lot of respect for Elon Musk, even though he can be a bit of a, a strange guy, let's face it. But, that guy's bloody single-handedly taking us towards, a much better place, I think, in the world as a result of the way that he's going about his technology.
Except for putting chips in the brain. I'm just not sure about putting a microchip in the brain.
Even that is just phenomenal, isn't it? It's we're going to end up going that way anyway, and he's he's doing it. I mean, I always say about Elon Musk, and just if Elon Musk was a fictional character in a book or a film, it would be far-fetched. It would be. That's just nobody can do that. It's just unbelievable the stuff that he's doing. He single-handedly built the biggest and best car company in the world. He's taken NASA astronauts to the moon and Mars. He's got a space rocket company. He's building massive tunnels under the ground as a transportation system. His cars update overnight and actually are autonomous. He's building a solar infrastructure around the world that effectively will get rid of fossil fuel burning. He's putting the Wi-Fi in the sky across the globe. All these things, each individual thing on their own would be amazing. And he's doing all of these things. Absolutely. We must be in the Matrix to have somebody that's doing all of that.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's, the stuff he is doing. I mean, he's looking to do a mega factory in the UK now, isn't he?
He is. He's built the biggest factories in the world, and the one that he's building at the moment is even bigger. But the point is, when he was interviewed by by Joe Rogan, his consideration was that we should. This was 3 weeks ago. We should all go back to work straight away. That when you look at the statistics, and this guy's got a massive brain, the lockdown was massive overkill. And although we have experienced a pandemic, it's nowhere near as bad as we anticipated. But what he did say on a plus side, what we've just been through is fantastic practice from when a properly serious virus does land. And that was his view on it.
Yeah,
because really, COVID's a really bad case of flu, and yes, it's killed people, but so does flu. It's worse than the normal flu, and that's awful for the people that it's effective. And this is why I'm trying not to be insensitive, unlike Matt, who just goes full in. Because I understand it's affected people's lives, and it's dreadful. It really is dreadful.
Right.
But the lockdown will cause far more hardship, deaths, serious delays in treatment that will end up killing people than COVID-19.
No, it's I've seen that interview as well with Rogan and Musk. It's an exceptional. Interested to see how he speaks and how his brain actually works, because he's very much like Trump, where obviously that's not the best comparison, but what I'm trying to say is that it comes into his head and he literally just lets it go out, and just doesn't matter what he says, it's out there. And I think there's a lot to be said how his whole brain is made up, and how he deals with business and the different business levels he works on. How to crash stock shares one day and then bring them up to its highest point the next. You just have to look how Musk deals with that, and it's brilliant. So that's great. It's the COVID is continuing. I think it's getting better.
I've got one for you, Matt. This will be right up your street as well. Last night I watched. I think it was on Netflix.
You've been watching a lot of stuff here, mate. What's going on?
Well, Abby was watching it, and I came in. I missed the first sort of 15 minutes of it, but it's that new one that's about the general who runs the space program. It's a comedy.
Space Force.
Space Force. Yeah,
I'm watching
it's really good. So I watched the sort of the first episode, or sort of most of it. But in that, well, I think there was a perfect analogy for what's gone on with the lockdown. So just to set the scene, the debate was whether or not to launch the spaceship. Okay, and the general had the overall say, and he's the main character in it. And he had a load of scientists lined up on the launch pad, and every single one of them said, "You should not launch today." And the guy, and he said to one of the scientists, "What's that behind your back?" And it was an umbrella. The scientist was holding an umbrella. And this reminds us of what happened with SpaceX the other day. If there's a slight cloud in the sky, or they think there's thunderstorms, they won't launch. So the general said, right, I'm going to ignore all 7 scientists and we're launching today. And they did the launch. And the analysis at the end, when they said, well, we've got to admit you made the right decision. We had a successful launch. But why did you go against all those scientists? He said, well, if I'm going to take advice from somebody who's so cautious they bring an umbrella to when the sky is perfectly clear, I'm not going to take advice. Even if they've got the biggest brain on the planet, I'm not going to take advice from them, am I? And I think that's what's happened. That's what's happened with COVID-19.
That's very true. And Space Force is on Netflix now, and it's very, very funny. It's from the creator of The American Office, just to let you know, a little bit of Greg Daniels, his name is. It's a good show, but there's lots of that in all the way through the series. When you get to series episode 2, which deals with space monkeys, it's hilarious, but we'll leave that to it. Right then, people, we are sort of done. Mark, we've got your show coming up in about 20 minutes. Do you want to say who's on your show today?
Yeah, we got John Eaton later on today.
Okay, well, that was nice and short. Thanks a lot. Yep, we're on 1 o'clock. Brilliant. All right, everybody, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot for being with us. We'll be back on at midday tomorrow. Bye-bye, everybody.
Ciao.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.